I want to share a story that happened to me recently that underscores the severe nature of the problem in this realm currently. I know that was an ominous beginning, but it's really not that bad. I was sitting outside in a state of contemplation. My feet in the sand, just taking everything in. And at some point I noticed a disturbance around me. And I looked up to my right, and there were 3 young children playing with each other, running up to the area that I was at. So I began to observe the children and their actions. And their mothers, or at least one of their parents, was trailing behind them, just watching them as well. I observed one of the children who had to have been all of 4 or 5 years old. I mean, small enough and awkward enough that it was clear that this child had only begun to walk a year or so before this point in time. Anyway, I watched as this child saw a bunch of seagulls sitting around where I was at, just doing their thing, and some of them were just resting and relaxing in the sand. And this child sees this, picks up a seashell, and hurls it at 2 of the seagulls that are sitting in the sand, and the birds just take off. And this is not enough. The child sees this take place and then picks up the same seashell and chases after the birds and hurls another shot at them as they flew away. And I was laughing at the absurdity of the situation, of course, but then I really started to reflect further on what this says about the problem in this realm. The disconnection from nature and life that exists in all of us, whether we want it to exist or not. And of course, the reason that it exists is because it is something that has been generationally passed down to all of us. I was waiting for the mother to see this series of events and walk up to her child, put her hand calmly on his shoulder and say, "Hey, this is not something that we do. We don't attack innocent little birds and try to hurt them." But unfortunately, the mother saw this take place and didn't say anything to the child. This was just acceptable behavior, apparently, in this child's reality. And so it's not hard to imagine how each and every one of us, depending on how our parents influenced us and the level of connection that they had to life, probably have all sorts of events like this, maybe not on that scale, but similar, where our behavior was never corrected, where no one told us the correct way to perceive our interaction with everything around us, whether it be animals or other human beings, or just the environment in general. Unless it was something very traumatic, all of us probably don't even remember little things like this that were programmed into us at very early ages. And if the parents neglect to instill certain values into the children at these young ages, that's where culture steps in and provides the requisite programming or learning experiences, as it were, for the children to assimilate. It's not hard to see why we're in the situation that we're in from a little microcosm of the macrocosm event that I witnessed take place. to where a young kid just thinks, oh, I'm going to hurl this rock at this innocent bird. That's not even like a curiosity thing that maybe a child would engage in at a young age to where they learn a lesson from it. This is just something malevolent, and it's just so out of place to watch a child do something like this. The majority of the time you see a kid encounter animals and they walk up smiling and want to pet it, and the animal or whatever it is kind of like, all right, I'm going to let you pet me because I can recognize that you're an innocent child and you're not going to hurt me, but you're kind of annoying me here, And this was just so out of place. I was like, whoa, wow. It's no wonder that the problem is so severe. It's no wonder that we're so disconnected when we are in our adult ages. And then it's no wonder that nothing ever changes because it's just passed down from one generation to the next. And the truly hilarious part of this story is that this event took place the day after I recorded and uploaded that video on self-awareness, parenting, and generational programming. So it was like the universe said, okay, you're now claiming to understand this certain issue in a certain context. Well, prove it. Meaning, I could have easily witnessed what I did and pointed my finger at that child and especially the parent and said, well, you're beneath my level of awareness, and moreover, you are the reason that everything is the way that it is in this realm. But hold on a second. What if my current level of awareness time traveled into the past and was sitting on a beach where I was observing myself as a young child interacting with my parents? And let's say the very same scene played out. I walked up to some seagulls, grabbed a seashell, and hurled it at them. Now, obviously, there's no way to know what my intent would be in that moment, but maybe there was a series of events prior to that where I had assimilated a certain disconnection from the world around me through the interaction with my parents up until that point and just in general. Maybe I had observed certain things on television if I was allowed to sit in front of the TV all day. For example, I just saw that some parents caught a YouTube Kids program splicing in an individual showing them how to correctly slit their wrists. Yes, that's going on YouTube. It's not even subliminal programming. It just was a clip spliced in out in the open. Anyway, if I was observing myself and my own parents rather than what I perceive to be complete strangers with no relationship to me, would my view of the situation change? Would I have more understanding for myself and my own parents than I would for these quote-unquote strangers? Well, of course I would. But that, you see, is the insanity of the whole situation. I'm no different from the people that I observed. And so I ask you and myself, does this also extend to those who are in control of this realm, or at the very least understand how creation interacts with our awareness, and by extension understand how to manipulate that process? What have those bloodlines been indoctrinated to believe about us through the generations? Does it make sense for us to view them in the way that it is promoted, especially on the internet, for us to view them, even in spite of all the awful things that are taking place currently? Does that make sense? What is the solution? No one has any control over what is programmed into them as a child. And that extends to everyone on every scale. It's no one's fault. We are witnessing the aftermath of some sort of tragic accident. To the point where this is a very, very difficult place to exist in. So cut yourself some slack. And more importantly, take it easy on the quote-unquote strangers around you. Okay?